The Gib vs Slim supercard is one of the most unusual, but at the same time most entertaining cards I think I've ever seen in YouTuber boxing. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Unhinged Bites, and today we are going to be looking back at the absolute madness that was the Gib vs Slim supercard in Qatar. There were a lot of stuff that happened in this event that I did not expect whatsoever, so we're going to be going through them one by one. First, we'll start off with the prelims, or the kickoffs as they're now called. Amir Anderson put Niraj away in 2 rounds, and Pineda pulled off somewhat of a masterclass against Swarms actually. Now the first fight on the main card was Chase Demore versus Kills, and honestly, it was pretty boring. There was some action in the first few minutes, but after that, both fighters got gas and it just basically became a hugfest. Luckily, the next fight cured our boredom, which was Lil Cray Cray versus Yachty Gang. Technically a trilogy, although I'm a bit skeptical at counting the first one. Lil Cray Cray somehow found himself back into the tournament, beating both Ace Musa and Joey Knight, and eventually Yachty Gang as well, beating him by unanimous decision to win the Misfits lightweight tournament, as well as setting himself up with a fight with Dean the Great, of which I'm actually very excited to see because both of them grew up in the street fighting community, and it'll be very interesting to see how both of them evolved from those street fighting days into Misfits. For the next fight, we have what was supposed to be Jay Swingler versus Nick Lamau, but instead ended up being Nick Lamau versus Warren Spencer. And to be honest, this fight was actually a lot better, but also a lot closer than I was expecting. I honestly thought Nick would be able to put away Warren in like 3 rounds because of the experience gap, but to be honest, Warren fought pretty good, and apparently good enough to win him a majority decision win, of which I don't think is a bad decision or robbery, but I definitely still saw the fight as kind of a draw. Now the next fight was Jarvis versus Ben Williams, and to be honest I was kind of spooked at first because Jarvis was getting clocked with punches in like the first few rounds or so, but in the 3rd round he really showed adjustments to even hurt Ben Williams, most because Ben was gassed. But unexpectedly, Ben would go on to fall down and break his ankle in some weird way, I don't know how. And the doctor decided to wave it off, giving Jarvis a doctor stoppage victory in the 3rd round. Now I saw some people online saying that, oh, Ben was just trying to find his way out of the fight because he was getting beat up. And yeah, I mean, that could be a possibility, but at the same time, you know, injuries happen in boxing. I mean, Thomas Hearns rolled his foot in his last ever fight, and nobody said he was trying to find a way out of it. I feel like it's just unfair to the fighters that, you know, they actually just suffered an injury by accident and people saying, oh, he just quit. Like, how the fuck are you supposed to keep fighting with a broken ankle? Like, are you seriously gonna risk injuring yourself more for the entertainment of the fans? Like, it just doesn't make sense. Anyways, moving on from that, we had one of the most bizarre fights I think I've ever seen, and that was Deji versus Dawood Savage. Now, at first I thought Deji was gonna completely smoke this man, and yeah, I mean, to be honest, he did kind of smoke him. But I was getting kind of concerned in the 2nd round when Deji literally was not throwing any punches. Paired with his very unimpressive physique, I was just completely worried that we were just gonna see Deji lose to the Wood Savage of all people. But then Deji actually decided to throw a punch, and yeah, I think we all know what happened to the Wood after that. Although I'm kind of skeptical about the 2nd knockdown because Deji threw one of, I mean, I'd say one of the weakest right hands I think I've ever seen, and the Wood still fell from that. Now I heard one of the commentators say that Dawood didn't have time to gather himself. He didn't have time to recover because the referee didn't actually count the first knockdown as a knockdown. He just let Dawood straight back in, and I feel like the right hand just added to that damage, and he just didn't want it anymore. But which I think, yeah, that's probably what happened. But at the same time, what more could you expect from Dawood Savage? Let's be honest. Man's been knocked out, what, 7 times now? Remember the time we used to call Deji the worst boxer ever? Yeah, no, times have definitely changed now. Now, the next fight was Saul Poppy versus King Kenny. Now, I don't know why, I was a bit scared for Salt Poppy for a moment because his caliber of opponents I feel like weren't matching King Kenny's level, and I feel like he'd just be underprepared. But the absolute relief and joy that I had when he landed that left hand that put Kenny on the canvas. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still like Kenny too, but come on, we Filipinos gotta represent each other, right? And honestly, I'm just glad to see Salt Poppy back on top of the Misfits roster. And lastly, ladies and gentlemen, we have the main event, Gib vs Slim. Now, before I say anything about the fight itself, I'd just like to roast KSI's absolutely bullshit commentary, alright? I literally had to watch the fight on mute because of the absolute glazing that KSI was giving Slim. Like, weren't you just talking shit about him, saying he's like not worthy of pay-per-view status? And now, suddenly you're acting like he's the savior of your promotion. And to think that he was calling Wade Two-Face this absolute fucking bellend. Anyways, the fight was just mostly Gib domination. I mean, in my opinion, I think Slim stole 1 or 2 rounds, no, 1 round at best. But Slim style was just no match for Gib. Although I will admit he still looks way too stiff. I feel like he needs to be looser, but yeah, I mean, he beat Slim, so what do I have to say in that? Overall, I think this card put a lot of attention back into influencer boxing, especially after that fucking KSI versus Fury mess. It definitely reignited some old fires that were needed to get people to talk about influencer boxing again. And anyways, that's it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.